Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into the forest floor to uncover the story of a culinary treasure, so elusive and delicious that it commands prices rivaling some of the finest luxuries in the world. We're talking about the magnificent, the mysterious, the giant morel mushroom. Have you ever wondered why this strange honeycombed fungus is one of the most expensive foods on the planet? Well, stick around because we're about to journey through history to find out how the morel went from a forager's secret to a five-star delicacy. The story of the morel is as old as the forests themselves. For centuries, indigenous peoples and rural communities across the Northern Hemisphere knew of this special springtime treat. It wasn't about money, it was about tradition and a deep connection to the land. They knew the secrets of where to look in the dappled sunlight of the woods, often near specific trees like ash, elm, or old apple orchards. And most intriguingly, they knew to search the scars of the earth areas recently disturbed by forest fires. This is a crucial clue in the morel's mystique. Unlike mushrooms we can easily farm, the morel has a wild, untamable spirit. It fruits when and where it decides, often triggered by the complex ecological changes that follow a fire. This unpredictability was the first ingredient in its recipe for rarity. For most of history, morels were a hyperlocal phenomenon. You could only enjoy them if you lived near a forest where they grew and knew someone was someone with the skills to find them. They were a gift of nature, enjoyed fresh for a fleeting few weeks in spring. Some were dried to preserve them for the leaner months, concentrating their incredible flavor into something even more potent. But they were hardly a commodity. They were part of a subsistence lifestyle, a delicious secret held by those living close to the land. There were no global supply chains, no refrigerated trucks shipping them across continents. If you lived in a big city or a region where they didn't grow, you likely had never even heard of them. So, what changed? How did this humble forest mushroom get a promotion to the world of fine dining? The shift began in the heart of classic gastronomy, France. French chefs, with their obsession for unique, seasonal, and intensely flavorful ingredients, were among the first to recognize the morel's culinary genius. In the 18th and 19th centuries, as French cuisine was being codified and celebrated, chefs like the legendary Marie-Antoine Carême began incorporating wild foraged ingredients into their elaborate dishes. The morel, with its deep, nutty and earthy flavor, and its fascinating sponge-like texture that soaked up sauces, was a perfect candidate. It was exotic, it was seasonal, and it was delicious. Its presence on a menu instantly signaled luxury and a connection to the terroir or the land. This is where the morel's reputation as a gourmet ingredient was born. As its fame grew in the culinary circles of Europe, so did the demand. But remember that core problem. You can't just plant morel seeds and expect a crop. This inability to be commercially cultivated is the single most important factor in its price. While we've mastered growing button mushrooms, shiitakes, and oysters in controlled environments, The morel has stubbornly resisted domestication for centuries. Its life cycle is incredibly complex, involving a symbiotic relationship with tree roots and a reliance on specific, often unpredictable, environmental triggers. This means that every single morel you see in a restaurant or a specialty store has been handpicked from the wild. Think about what that entails. It's not farming. It's hunting. Foragers, often seasoned experts who have spent a lifetime learning the forest, must venture into rugged, sometimes remote terrain. They hike for miles, their eyes trained to spot the morel's brilliant camouflage against the forest floor. They might have to contend with difficult weather, wild animals, and the sheer physical exertion of the hunt in North America. This often means heading into the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest or the Rocky Mountains, especially to areas that have experienced forest fires 1 or 2 years prior. These burn morels are particularly prized and can fruit in massive but short-lived flushes. An entire industry of nomadic foragers has sprung up, following the fires and chasing the gold rush of morels. This process is labor-intensive and incredibly risky. A forager might spend a whole day searching and find only a few handfuls, or they might hit the jackpot and find a motherlode. This inconsistency makes the supply chain volatile. 1 year, a good season with the right conditions might yield a decent harvest, stabilizing prices slightly. The next, a dry spring or a lack of fires in the right places could lead to a dismal season, causing prices to skyrocket. This scarcity and the intense manual labor required to harvest them are costs that are passed all the way down the line, from the forager to the distributor to the restaurant, and finally, to you, the diner. In the 20th century, with the advent of modern transportation and logistics, the morel market went global. Fresh morels could now be carefully packaged and flown overnight from the mountains of Oregon to the finest restaurants in New York, Paris, or Tokyo. This expanded market created an explosion in demand. Suddenly, chefs all over Foraged wanted to put this rare story-filled ingredient on their menus. But the supply remained just as fickle and wild as it had always been. It's simple economics. When demand skyrockets and supply remains limited and unpredictable, prices inevitably soar. The morel became a status symbol. Putting it on your menu was a way for a chef to say, "We source the best, rarest, and most incredible ingredients." And that brings us to today. The giant morel, often referring to the largest specimens of species like Morchella americana or Morchella esclantoides, represents the pinnacle of this phenomenon. Finding a perfect palm-sized morel is the ultimate prize for a forager. They are rarer than their smaller counterparts and are visually stunning, making them a chef's dream for presentation. A single, beautiful, giant morel can become the centerpiece of a dish. Their price reflects this ultimate rarity and desirability. While smaller morels are already expensive, these giants can fetch astronomical prices, sometimes selling for hundreds of dollars per pound. Especially at the beginning of the season when excitement is highest. In recent years, there have been some breakthroughs. Scientists in places like Denmark and the United States have finally had some success cultivating morels indoors, mimicking the complex conditions they need to fruit. However, this technology is still in its infancy and is incredibly expensive to implement. It has yet reached a scale where it can make a significant dent in the global market or bring prices down for the average consumer. For now, the vast majority of morels remain a wild treasure hunted by hand. So, the next time you see morels on a menu and gasp at the price, you'll know why. You're not just paying for a mushroom, you're paying for the mystery of the forest, the knowledge of the forager, the risk of the hunt, the scarcity of a wild and untamable food, and the centuries of culinary history that have elevated it to the status of edible gold. It's a story of nature, tradition, and the relentless human pursuit of flavor. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the woods. What's the most incredible wild food you've ever tried? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more culinary adventures. We'll see you in the next one.